Welcome back to She's at the Vicarage. I hope you're having a wonderful week.
Hello, well, I was in Northern Ireland yesterday with my husband's family. What can tell you about that in this image? Well, it's my crisps that I had left over from yesterday. So I'm going to sit and enjoy my crisps, and then we're going to get on with the job for today, and that is to sort out this bench. I accidentally threw something from the top window, it was a wardrobe door, a few years ago, and it cracked this bench here. And so what I need to do is replace this panel, but if you look closer at the bench, it is pretty worn and needs a good sand down and paint as well. So we're going to replace this, sand the bench, and maybe even get round for painting it today. So that's the job for today in the vicarage. Just really attempting to get another year or two's life out of this bench.
So as you can see, I begin by using my electric sander to sand it down. Not for very long. Something happens, it suddenly pops and then no longer works. So I've got to get that fixed or get a new sander. So it was back to manually sanding. I used that piece of wood to just give a bit of push, but generally just did it with my hands, sanding down the worst of the paint off the bench. And then it became the point of trying to get this front panel off, and I decided to get my saw just to saw it off to start again. And then I'm measuring the piece of wood that I bought to replace this panel probably a year ago and working out the best way to fit it back on. And this panel is in fact the integral part of the bench which holds all the other seat panels. Now I couldn't find my spirit level, so I used a glass of water to make sure I could get this front panel level. I'm sure it's not ideal, but it works for this, and it looks pretty level to me. So then I was just reattaching it to the bench. You might be able to see on the right side there's no screws in, and that's because my drill ran out of power. So it's vaguely in place, but I'll refit it to that other panel later on. You'll see me doing that. I then went and got the tin of paint. So this is the paint that I decided to paint the bench with. I found it in the garage and started painting the bench, and then realised I'd actually bought it to paint the garden metal furniture. So I'll need to probably get another tin at some point. You can see the paint is incredibly drippy, so I decided rather than dripping it all over the pavement, I'd put some newspaper underneath. And then the job of putting the first coat on the bench began. At first I wasn't quite sure about this colour, but I did eventually enjoy it. Now this is me measuring out a cushion for the bench to make it more comfortable. The image that's inset is our shoebox, and it's actually to prove to you that I haven't just started making cushions. I made this cushion for autumn for our shoebox. You can see the pumpkins and autumn leaves and autumn pictures, and then I decided to make another one. So our porch doesn't have much seasonal decoration, but it does now have this seasonal decoration of the cushion on the footstool, the shoebox. And so you see the Christmas and the summer. Now the summer and Christmas are both the same cushion turned over, and then the spring and the autumn turn over. So there's two cushions that I've made, and at the moment we have our spring cushion on with the eggs and rabbits. So that's to prove to you that I've made a cushion in the past, but this is me making the cushion for the bench. I was going to use the leftover padding that we had in the cloakroom the other day, but realised it was actually too small and I wasn't going to make use of it, so I bought some new. Now this material, my mum actually bought to make me curtains when we decorated my bedroom when I was a child, but actually I decided I wanted a purple bedroom and this material didn't work. So it never got actually made into curtains. And rather than buying more material for the bench cushion, I decided to make use of this material that I already had. It's funny how you get attachments. It never was my childhood curtains, but because it was bought for me, I seem to be quite attached to it. And as you can see, I start sewing. It's quite a long job to sew because I don't use a sewing machine. I've never managed to learn how to use a sewing machine. So I do it by hand. And what you can see actually that I'm doing is sewing a slight ridge around the cushion to give it a bit of detail. And I do that by sewing the material round a piece of string. So I'm slowly sewing round. You can see I've near enough done all the way around the top. And then we're going back to the bench, just to screw in the bits that were not screwed in. And then I needed to sand the bottom of the bench a little bit more and then apply the paint to the bottom of the bench. I have done actually 2 coats on the top of the bench, but I didn't show you me repainting the second coat. So this is the first coat on the bottom of the bench, just to finally complete the painting. Now, it wasn't easy to do this week because we have an enormous amount of rain in the UK at the moment, so there are very few dry days, but when I did manage to get out, I painted the bench. Back in the rain and carrying on sewing up the cushion. Sorry, this is a bit fast, isn't it, this image of me sewing? You can see I'd done the painting first before going to do the sewing. So I'm busy sewing up the cushion. Don't know why I really needed to show you that, but here you go. You can see the effect that I've got on this cushion now. By sewing the string around the edges, it just gives it a nice little detail, a nice little ridge to the cushion. Then just finally putting the cushion together by sealing it underneath, finishing off the ridge on the last ridge. Took me a few days to do this, although I might seem to be in the same clothes. It's because I wear my same decorating rough stuff when I'm not wearing my uniform for work. This is me finally sewing up the last little bit of the cushion. And then I found some press studs, so I used press studs to just hold this together. Thank you to those who've joined me and subscribed to my channel. I hope you have enjoyed this week's video as I've painted this old bench and created this cushion. I am really happy with the results. I hope you're happy with whatever you've got up to this week. Who knows what I'm going to get up to next week? I'm not quite sure yet, but do join me next time. Take care. God bless.